If you measure people's wealth and how rich their lives are, you'll soon be stunned. Not really. These 10 extremely wealthy people lead outrageously normal lives to the point where it's frustrating. What good is having $110 billion if you can spend it buying a solid gold car, an ultra-luxe tank, $1 billion yacht? Well, these 10 billionaires have something else in mind. Number 10. Chuck Feeney. You might be wondering what the 1.5 million man is doing on this list. After all, it's not even much as one car in Jeff's Bezos' garage. Yes, as for 2022, Chuck Feeney, 91, is only worth 1.5 million. But just 2 decades ago, he had more than $8 billion in his bank account. You might think so. It takes a lot of cocaine and prostitutes to waste $7.9 billion in just 2 decades. But with this Irish-American businessman, a frivolous lifestyle was never the goal. Not only did he not spend this staggering amount on luxury prohibited substances, luxury vehicles, and expensive gifts for girls practicing the oldest profession, but he gave everything to charity. Chuck got into the 9-Zeros Club in the middle 1990s, primarily due to his duty-free liquor business in Asia, which he started in the 1960s. Feeney sold duty-free alcohol to U.S. troops stationed in Korea and later expanded to other countries. His business skyrocketed when he became the sole holder of a duty-free concession in Hawaii in the early 1960s. In the 1970s and 1980s, his duty-free shop became the largest travel retailer in the world, giving him immense wealth and power. Feeney, however, was not interested in any of them. He secretly gave away all his wealth, leading a modest and unspectacular life. In 1997, after a court battle with his former partner Robert Warren Miller, Feeney was exposed as the man behind countless charities and donations. Forbes called him a billionaire who wanted to die broke. Later, they also called him James Bond on philanthropy, as it became obvious that he donated around $8 billion to charity, which inspired people like Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, and others to donate a huge chunk of his earnings. But none of them live as modestly as Chuck today. At 91, lives in San Francisco apartment and has a $1.5 million retirement fund. There are no yachts, cars, or houses. Only one gold item remains on his possession, his heart. It's called impressing with your wealth. Number 9. Tim Cook. Have you heard of a small tech company called Apple? You've probably noticed them nearby. It's hard to miss a $2.4 trillion company. Well, its CEO, Tim Cook, unlike the company, who has a measly $1.8 billion in his bank account. Still not bad, I agree. Instead, Tim prefers to lead a normal, modest life. A little too normal if you ask me. A man is the definition of a workaholic. Do you know someone who wakes up at 3:45 in the morning and answers 800 emails a day? The only man with more email communication is a Nigerian prince who needs your help and is willing to share his vast fortune with you. Tim is not talking about himself, although he does not consider himself interesting. We usually disagree on this matter. But just like the cook, I also enjoy scrambled eggs, bacon, cereal, and almond milk. If you had 1.8 billion, would you be the first one in the office every day? Tim, for sure. Well, when you wake up at 4 in the morning, it's not particularly difficult. Despite this, everyone who works with Tim agrees that he is the best boss in the world and never yields or rejects any of his subordinates' ideas and complaints. Number 8. Azim Premji. You'd be forgiven if the first image that comes to mind when you talk about Indian billionaires is a $2 billion house, disguised as a skyscraper. However, Mukesh Ambani, owner of the mesmerizing Antilia house, is not the only wealthy entrepreneur in this $1.3 billion country. Today, we'll focus on those who do not use as much electricity for their jacuzzi as the entire metropolis of Mumbai. Instead, give something back to the society from time to time. As for Azim Premji, with his $9.2 billion, he doesn't even come close to Ambani's wealth. But Premji is probably at the top when it comes to charity and achievement. His Whirlpool was nothing more than a small family business before Azim took over. The genius is not called the Indian Bill Gates for nothing. Today, his company earns around 11 billion a year and continues to grow despite its massive bank accounts that are about to hit a new zero. Premji never forgot his humble beginnings. While his peers often travel in the ultimate luxury in their 1 million private jets, filled with different temperaments. The Indian tech mogul prefers to spend less and always travels in economy class, with golden roller skates of Royces and Bugatti Veyrons. Premji has a cute and comfortable Honda Civic worth about 16,000. Of course, as he gained popularity by popular demand, he was forced to ditch his trusty Honda and now has a used Mercedes-Benz he bought from one of his employees. Of course, from an HR point of view, buying a car from employees is an incentive, an image disaster, but Premji's reputation always precedes him because everyone working in his company knows that the boss is a really outstanding guy. Number 7. Mark Zuckerberg. It's weird to see tech so far down the rich list, but let's face it, it wasn't the best year for the meta. Still, 41 billion isn't enough to have panic attacks at night. And I'm sure I won't sleep thinking about how a Facebook guy could live with such meager savings. Well, to be honest, Mark prefers lucky's lifestyle. Yes, he likes luxury, and there are some significant purchases in his wallet, such as a mansion on Lake Tahoe and a house in Palo Alto. However, these are mostly investments. In fact, his houses are equipped with high-end AI assistants, but they are practically cost money nothing, as he made them himself. However, when it comes to luxury amenities, Zuckerberg is not fond of them. He prefers practical cars, such as the Golf G, TI, Acura TS6, or Honda Fit. They are all worth less than $30,000. What he really spends his money on is family holidays and charities. Many charities. It spends billions on funding, medical research, and programs for good other. Now, if they could just make Facebook less of a marketing trap, that would be great. Number 6. Ingvar Kamprad. Would you believe that the man who managed to create Lego for adults while taking all the fun out of it is worth 42.5 billion? I strongly suspect it's monopoly money, but once you realize I'm talking about the owner of IKEA, that number will sound a bit more accurate. People who have never had to assemble an IKEA wardrobe never really know what desperation is. My guess is Ingvar Kamprad wasn't enjoying his billions, and the modest and secluded life was a kind of retribution for all the misfortunes he had caused all over the world. Kidding aside, the furniture mogul was an example of a self-proclaimed billionaire who refused to let money take over his mind. Kamprad founded IKEA when he was just 17, and the brand quickly took the world by storm. While his finances soared and wandered somewhere between Venus and Mercury, his lifestyle remained the same. Apparently, he always bought clothes at the same flea market to save some cash. Moreover, he preferred to get a haircut in third world countries because 22 euros seemed far too expensive to Ingvar. Somehow I don't think he's got a chance to be a BFF with the Sultan of Brunei, who once paid 20,000 for a single haircut. Number 5. Amancio Ortego. You may not know who Amancio Ortego is, but somehow his 62.1 billion figure suggests you should. Although Ortega himself is not a superstar like other billionaires, his most famous fashion brand, Zara, is undoubtedly one of the most popular in the world. The Spanish retail brand can be found all over the world with affordable yet stylish clothing lines. So naturally, you think a fashion mogul would be flamboyant. Unfortunately for all the paparazzi and gossip media, Ortega has never been very involved in this image. The brilliant retailer went from a small clothing store in Coronia to a global empire, only gave 3 interviews in his entire life. For sure, Ortega is the epitome of privacy, and he has never done anything to be in the spotlight. Unlike most successful designers, he did not live in Paris or Milan, but stayed where he was born, in La Coruña. To top it all off, despite his success, he drank his morning coffee from the same coffee shop as always. Now it's a matter of getting used to. No wonder he liked to wear the same old clothes and eat lunch in the company cafeteria surrounded by all his employees. Number 4. Alice Walton. If the first part of Walton sounds familiar, maybe it's because you often go shopping at Walton's store. It's a small place called Walmart. Perhaps you have heard of it. Yes, the name may not be as imaginative as some other brands, But who cares when you have 1/3 of the 244.86 billion business? This is how Alice Walton, one of the heirs of the Walton dynasty, feels. And while if I had 62.1 billion, the Bugatti Veyron would be at the top of my long list of things to buy, Alice isn't as enticing with the glamour that the money offers. Instead, Walton prefers to invest in art, and more specifically in sharing that art with the rest of the world. Alice spent 500 million building her own private art collection in 2011. She invested 50 million to open the Museum of American Art in Arkansas. And if you think it's expensive, wait until you hear how much the centerpiece is worth. She spent 44.5 million on one George O'Keeffe painting. You may have noticed that this is not exactly the lifestyle I have depicted, but in fact the artwork are the only thing. Alice spends money and shares it with the world. However, it donates millions a year to artists and other causes. I wonder if this is a rebellion against the Walton family. She wanted to be a struggling artist, but her father said no, you will become a billionaire. No dirty New York apartments for you, young lady. Number 3. Sergey Brin. Unlike Google, which ironically knows everything, its co-founder Sergey Brin is one of the world's most enigmatic billionaires. Unlike most other Russian-born billionaires who owe their wealth to Vladimir Putin and his, say, style of government, Sergey Brin actually earned his wealth through hard work, a lot of sacrifice, and many sleepless nights. Also, unlike the rest of his countrymen, one relatively modest life where his job speaks louder than his shopping. So, instead of buying a yacht for 500 million, he invests money in many new projects. Most of them are related to the improvement of humanity. Brin has spent huge amounts of his fortune funding various reusable energy projects, as well as some space exploration gigs. Otherwise, Sergey rarely makes it to the news, and for some he's obscure. That's the reason Google's algorithm refuses to share rumors about the Russian-born genius. Number 2. Carlos Slim has one really inspiring underdog story. Born in Mexico to two Lebanese immigrants, no one expected Carlos to become one of the richest men in the world. Today, thanks to his telecommunications empire, Slim is worth over 80.8 billion and can proudly claim to be the richest man in Mexico. Despite his wealth, Carlos still lives the simple life he led when he started selling candy and drinks to his friends and family at the age of 10. Got into his head and he never moved house, even after 40 years at the top. Of course, private planes and yachts are outside of his spectrum, and he even refuses a chauffeur because he drives everywhere alone, despite the fact that he has over 88 billion. His monthly salary is just $24,000. He donates the rest to charity, finances Mexican infrastructure, and tries to find poverty. Number 1. Warren Buffett. If Warren Buffett were a country, it would be the 63rd richest country in the world. I wonder what it feels like to be richer than 2/3 of all nations on Earth, but somehow I can't even fathom how this is possible. Well, when you own more than 0.1% of all the money in the world, guess you get a new outlook on life. However, with all this money, Buffett doesn't want to live in profligacy. What can you expect from a man who instead of sweets or toys bought stocks at the age of 11? This kid must have been a nightmare at family dinners, always discussing the market instead of crying about having to eat his vegetables. Well, it turned out to be the right choice for Warren, as he is now worth over 109.6 billion. Despite his vast fortune, Buffett lives in a cozy little house in Omaha, NE. It's the same house he and his wife bought 50 years ago. He often says he can afford to live in the world's largest mansion, but it won't have the kind of memories his home has. Moreover, although he owns one of the largest private jet companies in the world, he doesn't want to fly in luxury, probably because he knows how much they pay per ride. Instead, he prefers economy class, where he feels at home. To make matters worse, the man who owns 0.1% of all the world's money drives his modest car and never once thought of buying a Bugatti Veyron. What is with all these billionaires these days? Don't they know you need a Bugatti Veyron if you want to hit the luxury zone charts more often? I guess when you have so much money and you prefer not to show it, you are not so much interested in being on the list. Well, never mind their loss. It was the 10 most modest billionaires you will ever see. Would you be just as modest if you had a 10-figure sum in your bank account? Let me know in the comments below.